What if the only thing standing between you and everything you want isn't skill, talent, or opportunity? And as much as this term is thrown around, but so powerful is how much you actually value yourself. Today's episode will challenge everything that you think you know about worth, confidence, and building a business that truly serves you. And so if this is your first time here, welcome back to the Mind of George Show, or I should say, welcome to the Mind of George Show, where this is the show for entrepreneurs who know that scaling their business isn't just about strategies and tactics. It's about breaking free from outdated business models, marketing tactics, and mindset limitations that are imposed on us from the world and our own beliefs, all so we can grow and scale with ease and impact by mastering our mindset, refining and deepening our customer journey, and creating marketing that most importantly truly connects with you and as well as your customers. And today's guest was a pleasure, and I got taken to church with the incredible Sue Bryce. She is an internationally renowned photographer, educator, and business mentor who has mastered the art of personal branding and business transformation. And her journey from struggling with self-worth to building a multi-million-dollar empire proves that the path to success starts with how you see yourself. And we break down a wide range of tangible, tactical topics. We talk about why mastering your craft is the fastest way to overcome imposter syndrome, the hidden blocks around money, self-worth, and asking for more, how alignment, not hustle, is the true key to business growth, the power of clarity, why knowing exactly what you want makes you unstoppable, how to shift from people pleasing to true personal and business alignment. And so if you've ever felt stuck in survival mode, this episode will shift everything you think that you know about success, confidence, and building a business that truly serves you. So let's dive in. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George Show. As typical with intros, I made another kind of new best friend. She doesn't know this yet, but we've just already bonded and resonated, and I've fallen in love with today's guest. And I'll tell you her name in a minute. But one of my favorite things that I read in her intro is she has this deep passion for storytelling, but this is the line that got me. She's an enabler of dreams and a catalyst for transformation in the business and creative worlds. And based on my experience in the last 20 minutes of talking already, I just want to listen to every word that she says because she's a world-renowned photographer, just oozes creativity. You can feel the love and passion in everything that she does, just has this beautiful soft energy, ability to communicate. And I can imagine that anything that she puts her hands on or helps somebody builds a personal brand is going to work. And it's kind of hard to even encompass everything that she does. Her experience across self-development, business, content curation. She's been a photographer for over 35 years, award-winning, and truthfully funny. She comes and visits where I live, and I'm now knowing where her photography is going to show up where I live. She's been an entrepreneur and a business owner for over 25 years, speaking for over 15 years. And so I feel like we're about to get taken to church, and I have a fresh page of notes. I'm ready to go, and I would love to welcome the incredible Sue Bryce to the show. So Sue, welcome to the show.
Wow, what a beautiful intro. Thank you so much.
If you ever need a hype man, I think it might be like my
Oh,
retirement career. Like I just love seeing people and like being honest about what I see. I
yay.
appreciate it.
Oh, this is very, very exciting. I really look forward to this conversation.
Oh, me too. I'm ready to be taken to church, as I say,
hmm
and so I
hmm
love it. So I was talking to you before the show, and I think like I want to dive in before we even get into like your background. Like that one line, the copywriter in me loves it. Like I'm an enabler of dreams and a catalyst for transformation. And you and I were talking before the show about like authenticity and alignment, and you help people build personal brands. I would love it if you could
Yes.
kind of just unpack your magic underneath that beautiful, beautiful fortune cookie.
I feel like the biggest transformation that I went through was building a business because I learned about money and I learned about self-value. And I realized in 2001 that I didn't have either and I didn't know anything about either. And then through the years of building, mastering my business and learning how to ask for money and keep money and manage money and not make money my idol, but the thing that, makes my life better and gives me more freedom. I had to learn this thing about I just didn't value myself enough. And how I worked that out was at the time I was young, I'd mastered my craft as a photographer, but I was working for a salary and I was taking home $400 a week, but my boss was selling my work for $5,000, $7,000. And I just thought in order for me to thrive and in order for me to be anything in life, I'm going to have to go out on my own. So I went out on my own, and it turns out that that work doesn't sell itself. It just didn't sell. And what he could sell for thousands of dollars, I couldn't make $400. So I suddenly realized I had no value of putting myself out there in a business and charging and receiving money. So, like me, I see thousands of people that I coach in business, and thousands of people that I coach in business are exactly the same as me. They haven't found their authentic connection yet. They haven't found their value. They're probably working through some really bad money programming from childhood or self value programming for childhood, and it's going to stop you from moving forward. So, I feel like the one thing that transformed my life is the thing that I teach. And most people come to my platform knowing what they want, but they don't believe they're worth having it or don't know how to ask for it. And everything that they want is just a dream. And I spend more time coaching validation and permission slips. And so I feel like once you really start to pull people apart, they'll just tell you that they know what they want but don't feel worthy of it in some way. And so that's been my swan song. And so making people transform into who they really are, it's not about making them become something new. It's about them finding it in themselves. And it took me a long time to do that. So that's why I'm so passionate about it.
That was so beautiful. And we're gonna bond over the permission slips thing. Like we're gonna
Yeah.
totally bond over this permission slips thing because like I run events, right? We have like another event coming up and we teach strategy and tactics, but like previous versions of me, I actually had custom permission slips made and I'd ask questions and they'd be it. And I'd just be taking notes and I would literally hand them a permission slip. I'm like, here you go. Like
Oh,
this is what it was. And
mhm.
there's so much wisdom in like what you shared. And I want to start with, because I already know people listening to this, right? I talk about authenticity all the time. I talk about alignment all the time, but I also
Same.
talk about how we're in the driver's seat and it's not going to come. It requires that we kind of go after it, right? And I know people listening to this are probably like, oh my God, I get it, right? Like I know what I want, but I don't believe in my core, or maybe I haven't even found that yet, that like I'm worthy of it or that I can do it or that I can have it. And so it just creates this stagnation, right? And it's like this, and as time goes on, right? So like how do you, and maybe through how you did it, right? Or how do you even help people start navigating that? Because like the permission slip thing is so huge
It is.
because like no one's coming, right? And I
I think
joke.
people think I'm not good enough
Mm-hmm.
to other people when they compare themselves, right? So you get stuck in your ego straight away when you're comparing yourself to others. It's your brain's natural thing to compare yourself, contrast and compare. It's how you keep safe, it's how you grow. But the problem is we get stuck in comparison, and that's in our ego. And then we start to say, oh, well, they're shit and they're bad at what they do, and I'm better than them, and the ego flares up. But the truth is I always say to people, they call it imposter syndrome. But imposter syndrome is really anybody that's new at anything. You're really just starting this new thing and you've got to get past being a newbie. And so the thing that really beats imposter syndrome and any sort of negative thoughts about the self is mastery. You've got to master your craft, whatever that is. And as soon as you master it and you feel like you're mastering your craft, you feel a self-worth that nobody else can give you. Permission and validation come from other people, and that's what we search for when we first start out. But the truth is the actual validation has to come from you being in alignment with, I'm finally doing what I really, really want to do. So the first step is acknowledging what you really, really, really want. And most people can't do that. So I've got this really cool exercise that I ask all people. I say, I want you to think about your current business model or the business model that you're building. And I write $1 million check. I've printed these checks. They're really cool. They're Sue Bryce. And I endorse it and I like give it to them and they have to put their name on it. And I say, listen, I'm going to give you $1 million for this business idea or this current business. And you have to tell me how you're going to spend this $1 million. And it's mind blowing how many people will get the $1 million and be like, so I'm going to pay off mom's mortgage and I'm going to pay off my brother's debt and I'm going to, buy this. And I go, so you're going to give away your money. And then I go, okay, the caveat is you can only use it for your business. If your business is in alignment right now with what you really want and how you dream it's going to be, that $1 million will just enhance the stepping stones that are going to get you where you want to go. But if your business is so out of alignment that $1 million would change your path in business, it would change the business or change even the idea of what that business would look like. That's the business you need to start creating, and you don't need $1 million to do it. But there's this weird thing that the $1 million check instantly paralyzes people if they've got any issues with money. And then, secondly, what it does is it helps you live a dream that you're struggling with, because a lot of people get stuck in the idea of this is what I want, but I can't because. And somehow the $1 million frees you enough to walk towards what it is that you really want. And it's just an exercise, and you've got to spend some time meditating on it, pray on it, whatever it takes for you to connect to this idea that this $1 million is going to be given to me right now, and I can start walking towards what it is that I really want. Blows my mind. And in any live or in-person experience, when you hand the check to people, they have a visceral reaction to it. Some people cry, some people can't touch it, some people push it away, some people take days to write their name on it because they don't feel worthy of it. And I sit there and I go, this is not really $1 million.
Yeah.
This is just the idea that I would give you $1 million to create a business. And it just is so real in the moment. So that to me is a good indicator of how connected and how in alignment you are with what you want and what you believe you're worth.
Oh my God, I have so many things I want. Oh, this is going to be gravy. I'm like over here. I'm like, yes, we speak the same language. I love this. I love you. I'm in. I will support you any way that I can. Like this would be a 20-hour podcast if I had my way. But I know you're like, we're working into you doing more podcasts. The few things that I want to call out, because I want to talk about mastery, because I see this a lot, and you and I do similar things. We have different wrapping paper, same destination, right? I
Yep.
use marketing, messaging, customer journey to get down to that core. But you said something about, and I know this wholeheartedly. It's like we ask ourselves, or these things of like, I know I want this, but some people don't get that because we don't allow ourselves the space, because we carry this fault or blame or guilt or shame, and we make it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we make it wrong to dream. And you said something in there that I think is so profound, but also gets mixed over, is that there's also this like almost addiction, because of the world that we live in, to this immediate gratification. Like, I want the answer right now. I want the
Yeah.
thing right now.
I
And
want to be a master right now.
right now. And there's this process, right? I even have a model I teach, dreamstorming, to break down your vision into buckets so that you're only allowed to dream about it, but you can't ask how, and you can't poke holes in it, to
Oh, I
isolate
love
your brain.
dreamstorming. I call it walking the multiverse. Same thing.
Yeah.
You can't ask how. You just like sliding doors. If you hit a roadblock, nothing in your multiverse is real. It's just creative thought. Just change tack and move in a different direction. And it's exactly the same like idea that when you are in the creator's room, there is no opposition or competition. And in fact, your own brain holds more opposition and resistance and competition than anybody else's. So instantly you'll go into a fight in your own mind as to why you can't do this. And it is the biggest lie you will tell yourself.
Yes. Yeah. See, I told you, like, I love this, like, so aligned on so many levels. And I do that. We go through the dream, and then I make them state change. You leave the room, you have to take a break, and you have to leave the dream. And then when you move into the builder
Nice.
room, most people ask, how can I? And I'm like, wrong
Mm-hmm.
question. How could I?
Yeah.
Right? Because can is divergent, and
Yeah.
or convergent, and could is divergent, right? And then same thing. And I'm like, no, imagine you had that $1 million check, right? Like,
Yeah.
be like a 6-year-old of like, this brick could fly me to space. This could do A. And then I state change them again. And then they're allowed. And I call it the protector, not the critic. Because a lot of people look at that internal
Ah,
dialogue
I like
as it's
that.
bad or it's wrong. But what it's really exposing is the weak points or vulnerabilities that become the focus points, that when fixed, it brings into reality the dream
100%. And,
or the creativity.
comparison in itself is your brain just trying to keep safe. It's risk adverse. It's like,
Yep.
am I safe in this moment? Will I get rejected from the tribe? So it all starts from a really good place. It's when you get stuck in that brain loop of focused on what you don't have is manifesting more of what you don't want. And
Mm-hmm.
when it's so hard to shift out of a negative mindset around yourself, and that's when you need, other people to probably help you pull it out, but it'll still be based on comparison
Yep.
instead of feeling.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love this. So I want to talk about mastery, because you said this about mastery, and I think this is the lesson that I've probably learned deeper than anyone, is that there's no finish line,
Mm-mm.
right? The moment I think a finish line shows up, I've already lost the game.
Yep.
But there's this thing, and like, you've been in business long enough to see this. I've been an entrepreneur for like 15 years, where like there's this sense of entitlement or shortcuts or things that come up, but really they just
Mhm.
serve as these giant distractions that get in the way of mastery. So like I would love to hear like your definition of mastery and like how you see that, because obviously you have it under your belt and you're an embodied
Mhm.
example of it. But I think it would be really powerful to kind of hear your perspective on mastery and like what that means.
So I didn't finish high school.
Mm.
And I left school when I was 15. Circumstances in my small town meant I couldn't go to high school. So I didn't get a high school education or a tertiary college education. And instantly I went and got a creative job. Okay. So I was 15 years old. I started working in hair and makeup, and I got myself into a salon, and I worked in a salon for 2 weeks. And whilst I was standing there, like in my young age, I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, and I don't want to be a hairstylist, and I don't want to do this. So, what jobs were actually available for me when I didn't have an education or any chance? And I started to do a few creative courses in like a community college. I did graphic design, and I did some stuff like that. And I was just trying to find my way. Then I found photography, and I became a retoucher, and I mastered that for the first 4 years. And photographers saw me master this one thing, and they started to make me feel really important. I was 18 years old. They're like, wow, you're really, really good at this. And I was servicing hundreds of professional photographers, and I was watching their work, and there was just one photographer out of them that's work was so different than everybody else's. And I was like, I want to work for that dude. And, it took about a year to start working for him. Nothing in my life changed until the day I mastered photography. When I mastered photography, I realized that all of that lack of education, all of that I'm dumb, I'm not good enough mentality suddenly made me realize it didn't matter. Doctors, surgeons, like I even photographed a Catholic priest, like people were asking me for my skill and telling me I was important, and then also paying my boss thousands of dollars for this. And I started to see myself as more. But I thought, who am I to ask for more? Like I don't have a high school education. And around that time, I went to my boss because I found out that my makeup artist that I'd employed only that year, and I'd been there 6 years at that point, she was earning more money than I was. And I asked my boss why she was earning more money than I was. And he looked me dead in the eye and he said, because she asked. And I was like, wait, I make you thousands of dollars, and you're telling me you paid her more because she asked for her value. And I didn't know how to even ask for that. So
Mhm.
it was in that moment that I started to think it's not so much that I didn't finish high school, it's how I'm showing up in the world right now. And I don't see myself as valuable enough to even ask for more. And that's being translated into every aspect of my life. I don't ask for more because I don't believe that I'm worthy of more. And I also came from this very hardworking, blue collared, hardworking parents that taught me to do your hard work and be humble, and do the work, be humble, and go home and be humble, and that employee will look after you. And he did not look after me. He treated me so poorly, and in the end it just came down to I don't actually know how to be more in my life. And I started to see myself as more when important people were suddenly making me feel important in the room because of the skill that I acquired, and I sprinted towards it. Not only that, I had this very disarming gift. I was given a camera. And it doesn't matter who you think you are. If you sit in front of me and I lift up that camera, everything you don't like about yourself comes to your face. And all of a sudden, I had all this power in the room because I could control that. And I could see people's like insecurities instantly, no matter who they were. So these really wealthy, really well educated, really important people were sitting in front of me, and they were vulnerable just like everybody else. So I developed a new skill, and that new skill was to hold space for people and to also make them feel good in the camera, to see them. And so I would hold up this camera, and for 35 years, I've had conversations with complete strangers about self value because I could see what people love and didn't like about themselves written on their face. And I realized that the mastery of those things was greater than anything I could have learned in high school. And all of a sudden, I was really important and I was really valuable. And that took me to 31 years old to work out. That's when I started my business. And then it hit home that I had no money skills. So all of a sudden, I was just making myself more valuable in the room with everything I did. And then I could ask for more. And then I saw myself as more. And then I asked for more. I asked God for more. I asked the universe for more. I stepped up to receive it. And I saw it in myself. And then I realized I'm the only person that was stopping myself from getting more. And
Mhm.
when I started to see myself as more, my whole life changed. And I started to treat myself with love and respect. And then others naturally did too, because I was embodying the one thing that I wanted more of: more love, more respect. And I also wanted more money. But it was the love and the love and respect that brought me there. So mastery changed everything. And if you have mastered a craft, it's not a matter of get better at it. Well, sure, get better at it, but take a moment to sit back and look at what you've created and what you've mastered and see your value in that moment, because you can help somebody in this world with your mastery. And it's the most extraordinary gift that you can show and give another human being, is to show them their true value.
Okay. I could ask you 100 questions on this. I'm like, I feel like I have a fast forwarded version of me with a little bit more experience. And I also feel so seen here. There's so many beautiful, beautiful parts. Cause even in the undertone, and thank you for sharing your story as well, because it saves me the question. In the undertone, like, I used to be a long time ago, I'm a recovering personal development coach, right? Because I had my own issues on that side. Now I just embody it in, right? But it's this, we try to do this life of the do be have, but it's really be, like, embodied in what it is. Then you
Yeah.
do the actions aligned with that person, and then you have the results. And I love how you also isolated out like mastery, and like you can master the belief, like you said at the very beginning, which I love, is that like you can know what you want, you can desire what you want, but if you don't believe you're worthy, then you're also going to spend time in the wrong actions. The belief is what also kind of guides you as a barometer. Am
Mhm.
I doing the right actions to become this and master this? But then just because you master the belief and you master yourself, it creates new areas of opportunity for
Yep.
mastery, like money management or business management. And it becomes like, that's why like I hate that the jack of all trades quote is butchered all the time, because the full quote is incredible. And I always butcher it, but everyone's like, "Oh, a jack of all trades is better than a master of one." But it finishes with, "But a master of one or a master of none is oftentimes better," because they have this like big skill set and
Yes.
entrepreneurship and having a personal brand and being here. To your point, is like you get this belief, but then you also get the workout or the prescription to get to work on, like, now how do I take that belief everywhere? And I like hear it in the undertone of like everything you're saying, like you ooze it. So I love it. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I always say, you know how people say you're a one act pony?
Yeah.
Um, I always said I was a one pony act.
Yes.
And that it really, even before there were personal brands, now that I push into a personal brand, I was always trying to call my businesses that I started something other than my name, because I didn't want the focus to be on me. But ironically, I am really a one pony act, and I do so many things of mastery, but I love being a solopreneur, and I love, the simplicity of that. I'm just
I
going to
love
stop
that.
my camera and
Oh
restart
yeah,
it.
go ahead. Just so everybody listening, because we don't edit the show much. Sue and I both bond over Canon cameras, but she's got one that has like a 30-minute timer, so we turn it on and turn it off, and we're crushing so we can keep her beautiful face on video. So
Here we go.
I love that. I also think too, like one of the things that like I heard underneath, which I think is important to highlight. We talk about humility, and I think humility is like a beautiful, beautiful thing, but that very similar to you, like I've prayed for a lot of things in my life, right? And I've asked God very directly. And I posted this a couple weeks ago and it tickled a few people. And I said, oftentimes we pray for things we don't have the scars and character to maintain.
Yes.
And it landed deeply when I like, it hit me in my intuition and I posted it. But like, even hearing you, it's like, you also answered the call every time where you're like, okay, I'm aware of this, right? So I'm going to start doing this. And I think in the beginning too, we make journeys of growth wrong, where like all of us live in this external world where like no matter how good you are, how deeply connected to yourself you are, you're going to fall into the bucket of external validation or their worthiness or the more itis of like, well, they have it, or the comparison. And I think with mastery, what I love and how I look at it is it's not the eradication of it, it's more so the acknowledgement of it and then making an adjustment when it comes up. Because like through this whole process, it was like you kept performing your craft and showing up. You weren't sitting back waiting. And then as a new piece of evidence came up or a new distinction came up, you integrated it deeply. And it reminds me of like one of my favorite quotes that a shaman gave me like a decade ago. And he says, a student says, I already know. And a master says, thanks for the reminder.
Yes.
And I can like hear that in like the undertone of like what you speak and how
Well,
you share.
so Plato says that all learning is recalling. And so that fits to that quote beautifully, because you're recalling it, and in its most authenticity, any information when it connects with you is meant for you in a real alignment energy. So that to me is the moment where I'm hearing something and I not only know it, but thanks for the reminder, but I know it to be true for me. I
Mm-hmm.
know this is the message I needed to hear today. I know this is what I asked for being shown to me. And I also know in every cell of my being, this is right for me. And that's just staying connected to your intuition and what's right. Humility is an incredible thing because, particularly if you grew up poor, and I grew up without money, and to me, humility was a really big thing. But also, I watched two of the hardest working people and the most beautiful people I know, my mum and dad. I watched them work really, really hard and go without for that humility, because somehow in there, that humility also transitions to a pride of not asking for help or never asking for more. And I feel like my mum and dad did that, but then they turned to me and said, Susie girl, the world is your oyster and you can make what hay in the sunshine and you can be whatever you want to be and you can go out in this world and you can do that. And so I did. I sort of sat my parents down in my mid 30s when my business started to make $500,000 a year. And I was like, you never taught me about business. You never taught me that I could be self employed. You told me to work hard for the man and be humble. And that's wonderful. But I want more in this world. And you didn't teach me that. And I said that to them. And my mum looked at me and she goes, well, we failed at business. And I was like, wait a minute, when did you own a business? Like, my whole life, you've never owned a business. And my mum said, well, when we first got married, we had a business for 3 years. And I was like, wait, you were like 21. They got married at 20 and 21. So
Mm-hmm.
she's talking about a business when they were 20 to 21. And by 24, she had 3 babies. So I was like, I don't know how this business was going in that age group because you were children and you were having children. And my mum said something that profoundly changed me. She said, Dad couldn't ask for money. For the job done, he could not go to those people and say, this is what you owe me for the month. Thank you so much. So in that moment, I think I was 33 years old. My business was just taking off. I was just doing an annual turnover of $500,000. And in my brain, I just said, that will never happen to me. I will never be too humble to ask for what is owed to me. And when I said that to myself, I cried hard because that's exactly the path that I was on. And I
Mm-hmm.
was never going to get paid. And nobody was ever going to honor me and my mastery unless I honored me and my mastery. It was that simple. And that was the biggest catalyst. And I'm so proud of my parents, and they're incredible people. And yeah, your parents can't teach you what they don't know.
Yeah.
But I was lucky because a lot of parents taught their kids that they're not valuable. And my parents always told me I could be whatever I wanted to be. So it was a mixed message of them telling me I could be anything and them not living their truth. But at the same time, just very humble and beautiful. So I got to see both sides of that coin.
I love that. I also love the distinction because I think it's so huge because underneath that, we also like even getting back to the beginning of like being written that $1 million check, right? It kind of forces this mirror of like, well, if this is in front of me, what's really, really getting in the way?
Yeah.
And the first step is kind of acknowledging, right, those things that, hello paradigms being formed in psychology, right? Like we pick these beliefs up, school, parents, friends, one
Yep.
teacher telling you a B+ was wrong, and all of a sudden you spend your whole life thinking I need A+. And so like the first step is having an awareness and acknowledging it. But then to your point, the second step is also, when you acknowledge it, is reclaiming that and owning that from a place of belief, and then being willing to go stand in that. And the one thing I want to ask you about here, because I think it's huge, and I'm just a big fan of exposure therapy. Like I feel like the more no's I get, the easier it is to find yeses, right? But there's this gap that exists. And I remember this for me wholeheartedly. And it never goes away. New moments in my life, new catalysts in my life. And like here I am again, almost like that 7-year-old boy afraid in this new bucket
Yep.
to ask for that thing, right? And so that gap exists of like, okay, I know it, I believe it, but now how do I navigate this in the world? And you do it with confidence, and it seems like you do it with ease, but I also know underneath that surface is like a lot of work and a lot of reps and all of that. So
Honestly, there's a lot of alignment. Alignment
mm,
for me is when you know what you want, you have a very clear vision for what that looks like, and you speak that vision to truth. It's definitely connected to the heart. And then the next step down is that solar plexus. We get confidence in action. Action comes from doing it, not talking about it. We speak out the truth of what we want. We speak out with the energy and the vibration of bringing it to manifestation. The heart has to be activated, or you don't come back to this every single day. If the heart is not activated, it's not what you want, it's just a good idea. And then the identity is formed in the action of doing it. Did you know that the synonym for manifestation is actually embody, declare, confirm, declare, and embody? So you can't just say, I want to become this. You have to embody that and become it in every part of you. So when you really look at what people want, most of them don't know what they want because they're living other people's dreams, or they're too busy people pleasing. They're too busy lost in, I don't have time. So everybody says they don't have two things. I don't have time to do this, which is
right.
I don't prioritize this. And I don't have the money to do it, which means you can't buy a successful business. So if I really gave you that $1 million, you could buy a business that already exists, but you're buying the energy of the owner of that business until you put your energy into it. Because the energy that goes into a business to attract clients and money and joyful alignment has to come from the person who owns it, because it trickles down. Whenever you go to a coffee shop, if the person making your coffee is treating you poorly, their boss is treating them poorly. It's just so easy to work out. It trickles down from the top line. So it doesn't matter how many people are between you and the product. If you are not connected and in alignment with your product, everybody at the bottom level can feel it. So that to me is more about, what do I really want? What do I know I want more than anything? Do I have a clear vision for it? Am I prioritizing my creative time to actually go and do it? Am I speaking it out? Am I loving it? And am I taking action with it every single day? And even when I started my business, I think I had this quote that was like, what you vividly imagine, most ardently desire, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. I think it's Paul Sisson. But the one thing about that I wrote underneath was, I wake up every day and I actively contribute to the success of my business. Like,
Mm.
it was like, more than anything, the energy that I wanted to embody every day was, every day I get to come to this table and make my business better. And how am I going to actively participate in one client, one lesson, one big alignment. What is it going to be for me today? But it had to be something, because I wanted a business more than anything. And I knew what I wanted. I could see it. I was speaking it out. My heart was really activated, and I was just showing up to the work as often as I could. And inevitably, because it was so heart activated, I can manifest at a very exponential rate, because I have the most amount of alignment and connection to what it is that I want. So you've just got to, even weirdly, the energy of in the human body that I know comes from your connection to your maker, whatever that faith is. The vision is right between your eyes. The speaking it out is right there. The heart is right there. And then the action is to hold your chest up and step forward in action every single day. In that kind of alignment is right part of you, is right here. So that was the power for me. And once I learned that I could create whatever I wanted, it wasn't, the truth is, I had to really explore what it is that I really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can say, I want a big house and I want, but those are not feelings and those are not experiences. And when you have those things, they bring feelings and experiences that are uniquely different. So it was really, what is the experience and the feelings that I want to live in every single day and feel good about, and getting into that alignment with what I want. And I figured that as a poor kid, nobody had to ever tell me what I wanted, because I knew what I wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
it started out small in the beginning. I wanted more options than my parents had. I wanted my own house. I wanted all those things. I wanted to be a financially independent woman so that nobody could take that away from me. And those things were like where I started. And then I just got into alignment with the next thing that I wanted, and the next thing that I wanted, and the next thing that I wanted. And I infuse every part of that alignment with all those parts of myself. Am I speaking my truth? Is it activated in my heart that I want this? Do I have such a clear vision for it that I can walk towards it every single day? Yes, that's how I create anything.
That is like the most succinct and poignant summary of alignment with so everybody listening, like, you might want to rewind this part and go listen to it again, because that was like, here's the vision of how, here's the workout to follow, and here's the most important required points, because that was so powerful. I mean, on this podcast, I talk about like having clear vision. Then I give them models to like break it down into actionable items. And I tell them, I'm like, you need to seed your garden before you weed. So like invest
Yes.
in that vision before you go weed the thing that's in front of you right now. But I even love the way that you broke it down from like the I know to the vision to my ability to speak it and confirm it to like
Mhm.
feel it in my heart
Mhm.
and
And
then
then the
chest
solar
high.
plexus is the strongest part of you. That's the part that lifts your chest up in pride and knowing, and makes you actually go and do things. That's where I think if you're not into alignment with who you really are and what you really want, you're going to find this part of your journey a little harder. And it's going to bring you back to that every single day. So you might as well do the work there, that it takes to manifest anything, is to wake up in alignment with it every single day. If there's any resistance, it's probably not connected to you at all. And also, when you watch people speak in alignment with what they want, it vibrates at a whole different level. You can actually feel it, it's palpable. And I always think to myself, when people, I speak truth as my mantra before I get up on stage. Like, to me, it's I speak heart, and it's like I speak from my heart, but I also speak my heart's purpose. So I can tell when people are not in alignment with what they're saying and what they're doing. And that to me is the clearest way to get into alignment, is knowing what you want first and then actively walking towards that every single day. Another one is what kicks you off alignment is what happens after the solar plexus is feeling and intuition. Every single day, you've got to wake up, connect intuitively to those five things and reactivate them. And that's down here in the gut. When your gut feels wrong, hold and just hold for a moment and have a look and go through, do I know what I want here? Am I getting a clear vision? Am I still speaking the right truth? Am I heart activated? And am I taking action? Because, you might find that you're just weakened in one of those areas, or somebody else is bringing something that's contributing to knocking you out of alignment. And the truth is alignment is what you want every day. It's not just a magic feeling. It's an easy feeling. It's a peace of mind. It's this feels right and I'm taking action. There's no resistance. And that's a magical feeling when you're in business. Because once you start to get to that, it's almost like clients and money are showing up without being asked. And yet, when you start out, you try and manifest people. Instead of manifesting your own embodiment, you try and manifest other people to come and spend money with you
Hmm.
instead of manifesting the alignment of being completely valuable to yourself and others.
Oh my God, I got goosebumps and I have tears welling up because even some of the parts that resonate so true is like I've walked this journey and I'm still walking it. I walk it every day until, there's dirt over my mouth because that's the whole purpose of being in alignment, right? Is I love the way that you describe this because I have the biblical side of this, but the business side of it is like reactivating it every day,
Yeah.
right? Like the finish line trap is like a place where dreams go to die. It's like the
Mhm.
graveyard of bones of your dreams of like,
Yeah.
well, I had it yesterday, but it's like no tuning into it and like checking in with yourself. And I think there's a question that popped up into my brain because I think all too often people associate sometimes hard work or tasks to be done with I'm out of alignment. And it's
Yes.
not that the tasks are out of alignment. It's that we're out of alignment. So we don't see the path on the other side. Can you talk about that for a minute? Because you nodded pretty heavy at that one.
Well, the thing is another one is when we don't want to do a task, there's some things that are just really boring and we've got to outsource them as soon as we can because there's literally somebody in the world that gets joy from doing these jobs and getting paid to do it than you. But the one for me is boundaries. Is when we're most disconnected and feel like we're not in alignment. It's when other people are pushing boundaries and we're not speaking them up and being honest with those boundaries. So, for me, it's saying no to a whole lot of people usually. And it just means that there's no contract for myself here. And I'm trying to please other people. And that's when I mostly find I get kicked out of alignment. Also, the heart, it's just not activated. In order for it to be a daily alignment, for order for it to manifest, your heart has to be activated. You have to want this. And that's sometimes when I feel like a lot of people are not truly in their heart's activation. And maybe they've heard somebody else or somebody's told them they should have a thing and they're working towards that instead of working towards what feels really right for them. That's probably the hardest part is getting people to really tell you what they really want.
Well, I love, oh man, I have like my brain, like, I don't know if your brain works like mine, but like when you speak, like, cause I could listen to you all day, I see like the Queen's gambit of everything tying together in my brain. I'm like, oh, this applies to this. This applies to this. I'm like, yes, like preach it. Like, oh, this is a gift already. Like my heart's full, like just hearing you. This just feels like, even if nobody listens to this, which people will, but if you are listening selfishly, this is like filling my heart right now. And I'm like, gift from God. It reminds me of a lot of things. So the first part that like I want to talk about, and you said this, but I also think it's important to highlight, at least for me when I heard it, vision doesn't have, and I joke about this on the podcast. I said, if your vision has revenue or results, you don't have a vision because those
Mhm.
are the things that we can't control. But you also said when you're operating in alignment, you're making micro adjustments along the way, and it's
Mhm.
next to next to next. And I
Yeah.
think a trap that I fell into early on in my career, I'm like, look, I have a vision board behind me, right? Like I'm just going to stare at it and it's going to magically, come to be, or like it's just going to show up one day. And I love the way that you even articulated of like it's you check in with yourself and you get really, really aligned. And like you notice that like if something feels off or something feels heavy, it's probably because of one of these areas are out of whack. Like we forgot our why,
Mhm.
or we let go of the vision, or the biggest one that I see personally is the one that you just hit on, where I'm not speaking my truth.
Mhm.
And you even said it, and I joked at one of my events, like one of the things that I struggled with is I was building a vision for somebody who's buried in the grave because of my childhood, right? And like I was
Yes.
being run by somebody who was in the ground. And I love my father wholeheartedly. Today's actually his birthday. um,
Ah,
and I honor him every day now. But there was all this stuff and this residue of like the same wounds, or growing up poor or homeless, and all these different pieces. And I was like,
yep.
this isn't for me. This is to like to let this story go. But the whole thing is that I never was able to speak authentically because, to your point, I never took the time and asked myself truly, like, what do I want? Like,
So,
what would bring you
they
joy?
measure the energy coming out of a human being now, they can measure that. And I thought it would be rage or love would be the biggest energy. And the biggest
Authenticity.
energy is authenticity, right? So, authenticity is the truth, your truth. And why do we find it so hard to speak our truth about what we really want? And why are we such people pleasers? And clearly, that usually comes from our social curators
Yeah.
or our parents. But the thing is when you actually sit people down and ask them what they want, what they really want, there is a whole lot of things that have to happen in terms of boundaries and letting go of groups of people and people that you've let down. And all these people have set up these systems in their lives that they're pleasing other people and not themselves. And I was just like, I think I think the business is the one area of your life that unselfishly you can work on yourself without sort of just going, I'm just working on myself. You're actually working on a business. But what I love about watching people build any business, and I say build a business, you grow a business, you don't build one. Building is plans and rules and measurements. It's like a garden, right? You want to plant the right things in the right place at the right time of year and make sure they have enough sustenance, and then you care for it. You want it to grow and see sunlight and get water, and you want to snip it and clean it up and prune it and look after it. And the more you love it and the more you look after it, the more bountiful it will fruit and the more it will become a daily ritual for you. Building a business is, and I say it all the time when I'm building a business, but the truth is it's a garden, it's growing a business. And the one person that you have to care for more than the garden is the gardener, because you're the one literally showing up to it, to prune it, to love it, and to make it what you want every single day. So I think you're probably the most important part of the equation, right after creating a product and service of value, because you can't sell anything until you have a product and service of value. So to me, it's like working on yourself at the same time and working on a product of value at the same time. Because when you suddenly see yourself as enough and you have this product of value, you're just selling it, and you're not really even selling, you're just sharing it with people. And it's just the best part of being a business. That's when you suddenly feel like I'm in alignment with what I'm doing.
Yeah, I love it. I had an incredible friend on the podcast who a couple of weeks ago whose entire mission is to cure suicide and first responders, military people, everything.
Wow.
And he said this and it was so poignant, but it speaks to what you said. And he said, be selfish to be selfless.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like just the easiest fortune cookie of like, you have to operate from this place of alignment and this
Yeah.
deep level of knowingness. But also, I think even in hearing your story, which is something that I struggled with, is also not allowing that current place of alignment to become an identity, but to be
Yeah.
flexible, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
to grow, to adjust, to realize that like your passions can change, your friend circles can change, like how you express your creativity can change. Like I started as a photographer, but
Yeah.
like I never set out to be one, but I was writing a cookbook and I needed good food photos. So I taught myself and then that led and then I was like, well, I'm not really a photographer anymore, but now I use more video and photo equipment than I've ever done before.
Right.
So it's a tool that's in my box, but like I didn't keep going down that rabbit hole. Like this is my passion. And I think that's another thing that I see people bump into. It's like alignment is good, but if that alignment becomes your identity, and then that's this new thing, it just becomes this self-imposed prison where we have the key and we forget to open the door and allow ourselves to grow or to let
Yeah,
go of
because
that
I
client.
watch people all the time go to reinvent their career and they're too scared to because people don't know anything else about them. And I was like, this is just something you do. It's not who you are. Who you
Mm,
are is so I think personal brand has changed that. I feel
yeah.
like the sort of stepping into this personal brand where it's more of the person in the brand than. So, for instance, my identity was firmly as a photographer, but I've spent the last 15 years educating my business model and not being a photographer for clients, but still being a photographer every single day. And you can get really stuck in that identity. And that's the part that will really hold you back, is this idea that I can't be more, even when you've built it. So there's this really famous saying, I think it's the artist's way, where you go up the mountain And as you come around, it's the same view. You've been there before, but it's a different altitude. And every time you go up the mountain, you just get further, you get closer and closer to just seeing more. But it's the same lessons over and over again that are coming towards you.
Yep. Camera. Yep. Camera switch. We got it off, on, and we're
What
back
a
with the artist's
pain.
way.
Sorry about that.
Oh, and it's okay. It's authentic. It's real. It's just how we're doing the podcast today. I'm totally here for it. I'm totally here for it. Yeah, I love that book, The Artist's Way, and I even love that analogy because like you know different details, same devil, right? Like different things. And I had a dear friend of mine, a couple, God, it was probably a decade ago. We were in his kitchen. He's like, George, you don't know what the problem is. Like you've spent so much of your life out of survival, just trying to crest the
Yes.
mountain, that you get up top and you forget that once you get it, there's another mountain in front of you, but you have to go down the backside of the other one before you can start climbing the other
Yeah,
one.
that's a good one. That's a good
And
one.
it really, like, we were at his kitchen table, we were drinking a glass of wine, he whipped out a piece of paper and he's drawing it for me, and I broke down in tears,
Mm.
right? Because it was the finish line trap coming in, and it was like, oh my God, I thought I made it. And it was like, oh, that wasn't really deeply in alignment because I was looking for it to be complete. Like I was looking for it to
Yes.
be something in my past. I wasn't looking for it to be a place of like expression or how I share my gifts with the world, right? And like I never set out to be a speaker, I never set out to be a coach, right? Like there
No.
was years where I'm like, do not call me your coach. I'm not your coach. I'm like your family member. I'm your friend. I'm like your, I don't know, pick something. And now, even my partner laughs. She's like, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I'm like, fine, I'll be a duck, right?
I don't even like the term coach, and yet ultimately it's what I do.
Yeah, yeah, 1,000%. And you're really good at it. You're coaching me whether you realize it or not. Like this is profound. I'm like, oh, thanks for the reminder. Thanks for the reminder. Yep. Like my heart's tickling so deeply because my heart's activated because I talk about alignment so much. And like,
Yes.
this is probably episode 585 or something on the show. And it's probably in the undertone of like every single one. But the way that
Yeah.
you so eloquently state it and the relationship with it and reactivating it every day, and like it also makes it tangible and measurable, which I think is the most important way to even tend to your garden. Like you have to know what's planted in your garden. You have to know
Which
what needs
actually
water.
business is tangible. And so as much as you can do the multiverse and or what did you call it? Not brainstorming, you called it
Oh, dream
dreamstorming.
storing. Yep.
As much as you can curate a vision, for me it's like at the end of the day, you're selling a product and that product has to have a profit margin and a cost of goods sold. Um, you have to learn about basic commerce and really basic taxes. And after that, the rest is about you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, "You can't scale your business till you can scale yourself."
yep,
And
agree.
that I think is like the one where like even business has this like ability to create these sneaky hidey spots, right?
Yeah.
Because like if I just hustle more, right, or if I go work harder, if I go distract myself with this skill, it just adds all this confusion to the plate. And really,
Yes.
like what you nailed so powerfully is like underneath it is still you. Like we're
Yeah.
driving. We choose
Yep.
what we speak. We choose where we show up. We choose how we operate when we walk into a room or what our energy is like before we turn on a video. And I
So
think
I
that
have
that's the
woken
most
up
powerful.
many times in my career and not liked what I was doing. I
Yes.
have gotten to a point in my career where I boxed myself into this last business more so than anything. It got big in the numbers and it got big in the money, and it just got to a point where I couldn't leave it. I suddenly felt I was out of alignment with what we'd built, and I really couldn't see a way through it. I did this with actually my first two big businesses that I sold both of them. I felt like I couldn't get out of them, and I was ready to set them on fire in order to get away from them. It was such an irony because it was like I pushed so hard to build them, and then once they were built, I didn't want to be in them. I learned something really valuable from that. Instead of saying, I don't finish things or I don't want this anymore or how could I just change, tech like that, I realized what I was doing was I'm obsessed with creating businesses. I'm designed, the way my brain works, to create them and sell them. And the way I was working was to create them and work in them, as opposed to I've created this incredible entity and now it can become somebody else's baby. And so I learned that mostly what I did was I got stuck in my own ideas and my own systems instead of creating them around me in a way that I didn't get stuck in them. So, your alignment will change a lot. Your heart will change. It doesn't happen overnight, but you slowly just realize you've done something incredible and now you want to move away from it. Businesses also were not designed to last a lifetime. And aside from the fact that 80% of businesses or whatever fail in the first 5 years, that's because most people won't do the money work. It's simple. They won't do the profit margin. They won't do the cost of goods sold. They won't do the units per average sale because for some reason we don't want to learn the real basics of commerce. And once you do, you realize it really was you stopping that from going forward instead of, we blame the economy, we blame the town we live in. I've heard it all, but I've seen people in tiny, tiny towns make big money, and it's really a big mindset shift. But yeah, you'll change, your heart will change.
Mm-hmm.
Also, look at every business and every step that you take in business, especially in your first alignment. Look at every single step you take as getting into a marriage, because a business partner is no different than a marriage. And when you get married, nobody thinks about the divorce. Everybody's there happy at the wedding. We hope it lasts. But a business has to have an exit plan for you and any business partner. You have to do a really solid, what does this look like in 5 years? What does this look like if somebody purchased me? And what did it look like if a corporation bought me or private equity? And why am I growing this for? And can I sell and license my own name? Those are just really basic questions. And when you're in alignment building something, it's simple. I'm going to call it my name. I'm a big part of this. And you're just not seeing the big picture of, at one point, you might want to step away from this. And what is that actually going to look like? The
Mm-hmm.
one thing I noticed was, aside from my identity, in order to start something new, I had to let go of what was dissatisfying me. And mostly it was because I was done in that space and I needed to just walk away and sell it or walk away and share it. I didn't have to destroy anything to become the next thing, ever.
I think that is probably one of the most profound things. Like I hear that at a very deep level, because all too often when people shift or find alignment, they think that they have to burn the things behind them. But there's
Always.
I would go out on a limb and say, if that's the belief, it's not alignment, because destruction doesn't come with you
No.
following your heart, right? So like that's a big red flag of like, get into belief, give yourself some space.
Mhm.
Like I love the way that you shared that. So before I forget, because we have to land this plane sooner, else I'll podcast to you for like 5 hours. Um, Everybody, I'm gonna give you her Instagram, and I'm gonna tell you where to connect with her, because I'm connected with her on Instagram. But like, this is number one. This conversation just filled my heart with so many different levels, and we went somewhere I didn't even know where, which is what I love about it. But her Instagram is Sue Bryce Photographer, and we'll have links to everything in the chat. But it's SUEBRYCE and then photographer. So make sure you follow her there. And Sue, before we even wrap, I want to ask you a question, and I'm actually really excited. I ask some people this question, some people I don't, but like that go as long as you want on this one. But I always ask everybody, because there's so much resonance between what you say and what I believe to be true, and like it's so confirming, and like my heart's tickled over here. But I imagine, and I tell everybody, if you ever saw the movie Men in Black, I want you to imagine that everybody listening to this just had their memory erased. And the
Yeah.
only part of this show that they're going to hear is this part. And you have the ability to tattoo their soul with any wisdom for them to take with them today and forever. Like, what would your tattoo wisdom for people be?
Ooh. I think the most important thing that you can work on is, okay, for me, when you start a business, you have to learn how to value money. You have to learn how to value yourself, and you need to learn how to value your product and service. And those are the three things that you need to work on. And I would sprint at all of them because they go hand in hand, and you can't ask for more, you can't become more, and you can't create more for other people and watch them share it without those three things. So, in order to get into alignment with what you really, really want, you need clarity on who you are, what you want, and the path that you're walking towards. Once you get clarity, you're unstoppable, because once you fill that clarity with a space of love and a space of true energy and authenticity, you're not selling anything. You are speaking to people on a daily basis, and what you're giving is connecting. It's never about money, but it's always about money. So the idea is you work from authenticity, not from money. You work from value, not from money. You make goals for clients. You don't make goals for money, because ultimately, if you make a goal for money, you will receive the exact amount that you're working towards. And that's a ceiling as well. So if you make goals for simply for connection and alignment for what you really, really want, and then you run towards them every single day with an activated voice and an activated heart, inevitably what you're doing will come to pass. But you've just got to constantly come from this place of self first. And then the best part is when you're talking on social media, it's about you, but it's really about me, the person watching. So you can't talk about yourself unless it's about me, because that is the weirdest thing about putting yourself out there and being, in business, is it's all about you and it has nothing to do with you. Because if I'm paying for it, then it's about what you're saying to me. It's about what you're teaching me. It's about what you're doing for me. And it's about what you're giving me. So if you can stand up there as someone confident in business, it's someone that can talk to your clients about them, but it's coming from you and it's about you in relation to them. So it is the weirdest thing, because most people who want to put themselves out there in online marketing and put themselves out there in their business want to be more. And so they make it about themselves. But the truth is it's the message that you're giving. So you can make the video and the photo about yourself, but make the message and the body of the marketing about me, who is the person who's paying you for the service. And don't forget, no matter how big you get, you're in a service industry and you're providing a service of value. It has to stay in alignment with your true voice and what you're truly giving. And none of that has anything to do with money. But money is a byproduct of connection. So that's where I would work first: myself, my money, my product of value. And then the fourth step you just need to take is to create systems around you so that you can come back to all three of those. Every day, I want to work on my money. Every day, I want to work on the value of my product and service. And every day, I want to work on my self value so I can embody that and put it out there. And if you want a business that's connected and valued and treated with great respect, you have to act all of those three things, embody all of those three things. And that's working on yourself every single day.
You can take over my podcast at this point. I'm like, there you go. So guys, everywhere there's a summary of like 550 episodes in like 4 minutes delivered like to the point. And I even love like the addition of social and communicating and understand that we're in service and products.
Yeah.
And I talk about that all the time. Like, your job isn't to sell a product or service. Your job is to get them the results that you promised. And that's when your work is complete, because it's relationships. And so,
Do you know something really incredible? I just taught a class last week on public speaking, because
mhm.
everybody wants to be a public speaker now because it's there. Like, we're on reels, we're at networking events, we're presenting our business, we're product ambassadors. Like, there's 12 different ways that you can show up online and speak. And if you're not learning how to do that, you're missing this golden opportunity. The irony is, when people do public speaking, and it's often to become an online persona like me, to have a platform or a brand or a coaching brand where you're putting yourself out there. The irony is, it takes all of this validation and courage and permission to get people up on the stage so they can talk to anybody that's not about themselves. It's only about you if it's for the audience. And so here it is. It takes all this courage to get up there. And then you get up there, and the first thing they say is, "This is not about you." And that's the one thing I learned being a speaker and also being an online educator and in-person workshops is I can talk about myself all day if it helps you take the next step in your business. But if not, it's not about me. So all of this energy you take to put yourself out there is to put yourself out there for everybody else. That's why we get so confused about being service driven, or people are saying, oh, you're heart led or you're service driven. Well, yeah, because really that's all there is. This is not about me, although I make it all about me, putting myself up there. So it is the strangest dichotomy. And also, the more confident that you are and being on that stage giving to others, the more powerful you will be in your brand.
That is we're going to put a bow on that one and let that slam the door. That was the best way to end that. Oh my God. So just for everybody listening, as a reminder, connect with Sue, but also do what we normally do. Send her love, like on Instagram, any takeaways, anything that landed, any gratitudes, like anything. Her Instagram is Sue Bryce Photographer. We'll have it linked in the show. We'll obviously tag her when all the clips go up if you're seeing this on social.
And my
And I say,
website is SueBryce.com. So I'm pretty easy to find anywhere
oh,
in the
you're
world.
really easy. SueBryce.com. And we'll make sure we have that linked as well. So SueBryce.com, if you're a website person, if you're an Instagram person, Sue
Yeah.
Bryce Photographer. And I'll say this as I say often, but it feels very poignant here. Like we joked early on at the beginning of the show about permission slips. So like hearing this is your permission slip to dive into whatever landed for you. Like don't
Yes.
let it become shelf help, right? Like for whatever reason, whatever you believe in, this is what was put in front of you today. This is what was in your ears today. This is what you watched today. And based on all the tickles in my body, there was a lot of tickles for anybody. And so take action on those tickles and give yourself the space and the permission slip to step into whatever Sue shared that resonated, because like this was incredible. Like I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sharing an hour of your time with me and talking about whitefish and just basically giving me a masterclass and keynotes. And like it's so confirming and so reminding, and like it was so beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Like I could have this conversation all day. Really, what are we most afraid of, right? That's the biggest question I'm going to ask. What are you most afraid of? Because I tell you what, there are so many old quotes, but living small is way more painful than putting yourself out there. And when you actually start to take the steps towards doing it and they're really connected and they're really authentic, you're going to win at life. And watching that transformation in business for me is my greatest joy.
You and me both. You and me both. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So for everybody listening, this has been another episode of the Mind of George Show. So you'll either see me in the next episode or you will hear me in your earballs. But either way, have a beautiful day. God bless you. And we'll see you in the next episode.